just a couple of weeks ago, Adam Blocker became a multi-time champion here in the iRacing IndyCar Open Series. A one-week break is all that they had to take the time off, and we are back Lone Star State style here at the Texas Motor Speedway. Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpotTV. We've got another 12-week slog in front of us, but today all eyes focus on the Texas Motor Speedway, where the NTT IndyCar Series will be heading this weekend for round 2 in its 2022 campaign. Delighted to have your company, where alongside Andrew Kinsella, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Delighted to be back again. And Andrew, of course, we're excited about the 12 weeks in front of us. Plenty of exciting tracks on our horizons. But of course, this is the season where we build up towards the month of May to the 2022 iRacing Indy 500. And I'm so excited. I know you're excited as well. What are you looking forward to this season?
This is the season that matters the most to most IndyCar iRacers, Arjuna. As you said, this is all building up towards that month of May. And what a schedule we have in front of us for this month. But Texas is going to be a huge challenge, I think, for these drivers here today. Fortunately, no PJ1 in the sim, but that doesn't mean that this track doesn't pose a major challenge for all of these drivers. That different banking that they put in recently in the real world and is in the sim really has made a difference in how this track reacts, and it's going to be fascinating to watch how all these drivers treat, especially turns 1 and 2, because I think that's where you're going to see a lot of the passing opportunities, but at the same time a lot of the trouble as well, particularly on that corner exit.
So let's talk a little bit about this track. 20 degrees of banking through turns 1 and 2, 24 degrees of banking through turns 3 and 4. It's a 1.5 mile oval where, of course, it's high banked, but it's high speed as well. And this configuration of Texas, you're talking about the change that we see. You do have the ability to run multiple lines. We saw this yesterday in the Indy Elite race, but it's also a track where you've got to be careful because it's so wide, it invites you to run so many different lines. If you're not on top of your tools, we've seen this in the past, coming out of turn 2, ripe for people to make mistakes.
Absolutely, and not just different lines, but it also tempts you into running very poor lines as well, I find, especially into turn 1. One of the things you find is a lot of people tend to overdrive turn 1, and it forces them into really awkward lines on the exit of turn 2. The really good drivers, they know how to back up the corner, and we're going to talk about this probably a fair bit throughout the course of this broadcast, but backing up turn 1 and really getting a nice good arc and focusing on corner exit is going to be key for most of these drivers to make passes and make their way through this field, as we do have a fairly warm track, I believe, here today, Arjuna.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but for now, we are ready to get underway for this season. Let's go trackside at the Texas Motor Speedway. Let's run you down the starting grid for the first race in the 2022 Season 2 iRacing IndyCar Open Series. And it's Brandon Traino that puts it on the pole. The King of the Bricks should be competing somewhat regularly here this season. With a 23.888, he lines up 3 thousandths in front of Adam Blocker. The two rivals will line up on the front row. Alexis Newsom has a new team, but the same colors on that Team i5G11 car. She'll line up inside of Rodrigo Franzoni. Robert Malechka and Tony Schowen for the Powerslide Motorsports team share row number 3. Alexander Van der Stant inside of Marco Aurelio Brazil, while Christopher Demerit lines up inside of AJ Musselman to round out the top 10. David Porcelli and Rashad Craig share row number 6, while Will Lyon in that orange and blue car that stood out last season will roll in 13th alongside Matt Holliver in the 13. Adam Crane back in 15th spot alongside Laura Gerhardt in that green Powerslide Motorsports car. Chris Wilhite shares row 9 with Gil Ribeiro. Final couple of cars with lap times on the board. Brian Spots and David Henger just on the edge of the top 20, while David Grable and Aaron McQuarrie 21st and 22nd. Tim Williams and Tanner McCulloch, first 2 cars with no lap time on the board. Justin Gable rolls off 25th. And it's a big old grid. We've got 133 laps on the board here, Andrew, and it's a decent-sized fuel window, but the thing you and I were kind of contemplating coming into this one is it doesn't matter how the fuel's going to last, it really matters how the tires are going to hold on.
Yeah, absolutely. Tire strategy is going to be key here today, Arjuna, especially with the way that turns 1 and 2 really work those outside 2 tires. Having to really manage your tire wear is going to be a very important factor for all the drivers here today, and I think that whoever does manage to make those tires last the best, and whose ever setup makes is easiest on the tires, that's really going to be who's going to come out on top here today. Because yeah, it's definitely going to be tough out there for a number of these drivers as the race goes on.
In your mind, which line would you like to be in? You talked about, the track conditions. Let's have a very brief look at them as they roll out onto the track. And, well, you'll see right here, 11 kilometers an hour wind, so it's fairly strong in terms of that. But it's not too warm, 32 degrees Celsius. We've seen warmer here in the past. Clear skies, not going to be much cloud cover either.
Yeah, we have a really cool ambient, and that's going to produce a couple of things. First of all, it's going to produce a little bit more power, I think, from these drivers and these cars. And second of all, I think it's just bringing down that track temp just a little bit, so it's not as high as it could be. But still, I think that wind, as you mentioned, is, especially if it gusts up as the race goes on, is going to be key for these drivers here.
Well, we've got a long old season in store for us. Plenty of excitement is on the cards. A week from now, we'll head to the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for the first of the road courses this season. The Nürburgring Nordschleife will head to the Green Hell later on. Classics like Barber, Milwaukee, and of course, all leading to the month of May and the iRacing Indianapolis 500. The road to the 500 starts today, though, and Brandon Traynor on his quest for 4 500s in a row will lead us to green as we get ready to go racing at Texas Motor Speedway. Great start already from Traynor as Alexis Newsom tries to sneak her way down the middle to try and get on past Adam Blocker. They use all of the banking, single file for the top four, some squabbling for fifth position between Tony Schauer and Rodrigo Franzoni. They build up the speed already almost at 340 kilometers an hour.
Really nice start from Alexis Newsom there. She did a great job, but Adam Blocker is not letting her get away with it, and he's hanging out on the outside. His teammate Robert Malechka is also right in the mix there. So we've got 2 i5G drivers versus 2 Powerslide drivers really early on in this race.
Look at that. It's just pack racing at this point. Will it single file itself out as the tires burn off? We'll find out. Blocker gets on past Alexis Newsom, so back up into second. Demerits down the inside of Franzoni, with a little bit of drafting help from those in front. Van der Sande actually pops himself up high, so Demerit will stick it down low. Blocker challenges for the race lead, though, around the outside.
Yeah, Blocker's really liking that outside line. It looks like the Powerside car is really working well up there, but Traynor really likes that low line, and he seems to be making it work so far. I think it'll be interesting to see just how long he's able to hang out on the bottom, especially as these tires goes off. It'll get tougher and tougher for Traynor to make that work.
Oh, it's 3 wide into the corner as now look at Newsom, all the way up to the wall. Relatively similar colors, but a slightly different paint. We'll have to get used to that one on the 11 as they work their way down through turns 3 and 4. Blocker takes the race lead, but that's the first caution of the day. Tim Williams and Tanner McCulloch getting mixed up with one another. There's debris across the track, and both of those cars embroiled in the chaos.
Yeah, unfortunate incident there. Brings out caution early on in this race, and that'll get things just a little bit settled down and let everyone catch their breath after some frantic action through these first few laps. But yeah, some really good racing early on between the i5G and the Powerslide drivers. And I think that's setting up nicely for what we're going to see for most of the rest of the day, barring some adventures later on with maybe some cautions. But right now, it looks like Powerslide versus i5G is the story of the day.
Let's see if we can pick up what happened between these two cars. They're at the very back of the field. Maybe Justin Gable is close to the action as well, so they work their way through turns 1 and 2, and McCulloch just slides up the track and have to grab another look maybe on board with Tim Williams. I'm not sure what more he really could have done here, Andrew.
Yeah, no, this one for me is on McCulloch. Tim was out there really early on in the corner. It looks like McCulloch his car wasn't handling very well. He washes out towards the outside, and at the same time he's basically lifting off the gas to try and stay out of Williams' way. But yeah, there was nothing Williams could really do there. No way he could predict that McCulloch would drift out that wide this early on. So unfortunate incident, and it looks like both cars, at least Williams for sure, is well on pit road for a while here.
Yeah, I think Williams might be done. McCulloch was able to keep rolling. Williams needed the tow. Now, in terms of pit stops, something happened to Rodrigo Franzoni because he's come down to pit and he's been in there for about 30 seconds and counting, which is not just a little bit long, but a lot longer than you'd expect.
So after the caution came out, there was contact between Franzoni and another driver in turn 3. I think it might have been Matt Hollaba, but I'm not sure.
See if we can pick it up then. Might have to work our way just a little bit further back. So Matt Hollaba, you can see there. So they're going to come out of turn 2. The action's going to go on behind them. Maybe Franzoni gets on the anchors just a little bit earlier. And so into 3, into 4.
Oh no, it was Marco Brazil.
Yeah, that's the two countrymen coming together there. Let's grab one more look at that one. And talk us through what you see here, Andrew.
Yeah, so it looks like Brazil takes a look to the inside here, and they just get a little bit close together, and it's tough to call that one, Arjuna. I think it was just one of those racing deals that sometimes happens in internet racing where just two cars going into a corner maybe a little bit closer than they should have at this part of the race.
So the lights are off on the pace car, so we'll be back to green this time by. Blocker leads from Traino, Newsom, Malechka. Demerit's gone up 4, so he went aggressive on the start, and well, it's worked out really nicely for him.
Yeah, I think Demerit was probably a little bit disappointed with his qualifying effort. He was well behind his two teammates with Traino and Newsom, but it looks like that i5G car is definitely strong, and he's already moved up well during this race. So look for, I think, again, the i5G trio really is going to be trying to take it to Powerslide, who sort of dominated last season. It definitely, at least so far in this race, seems like it's not going to be domination from the Powerslide drivers this year.
Of course, the time changed this past week with daylight savings flicking the clocks forward in America, so maybe we'll see Brandon Traino out a bit more regularly. Maybe we'll see Alexis Newsom regularly as well. We saw her plenty under the Indy Alliance colors. Has got a very strong backing and foundation now to build from with the Team i5G. Jacob Oster as well might be out in force. Christopher Demerit, well, it remains to be seen. We'll apply plenty of peer pressure onto him. Back to the green flag action here. Lap 8 underway. Good start from Blocker. Malechka's already putting the pressure onto Newsom, though, who might have just gotten a little bit swarmed there. Porcelli and Marco Brazil are squabbling further back in the pack. Bit of separation forming between those top 7 or so.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that there's a gap forming here that got a little bit strung out. There were a couple of drivers, I think, who might have just been a little bit sleeping on that restart, and it definitely showed with some of the battles we were having. But this is some fantastic action here between Porcelli and Brazil. But back at the front, it looks like Blocker and Traino are really going at it, and Tony Schowen and Robert Malechka are doing... sorry.
Malechka almost just slid up into Newsom there as they work through 3 and 4. Blocker's now on the outside line trying to pinch Traino down all the way to that white line and maybe a little bit below it as well. Newsom holds off the challenge from behind. Demerit's now up into 4th, demoting Malechka to 5th. Blocker's by himself out front. He's got 3 i5G cars in the mirrors. Then you find 3 Powerslide cars behind them. You say it's Powerslide versus i5G. Blocker might want some help as here comes Traino once more.
Yeah, and it definitely looks like these i5G cars are really, really strong. They can sort of run wherever they want. It looks like the Powerslide drivers, they really need a little bit more clean air than the i5G drivers do. So if what I'm seeing holds, that's going to spell some trouble, I think, for the Powerslide bunch.
And, I mean, it's so simple. Setup, right? We make it sound so simple, but what can you do here at the Texas Motor Speedway with your car to make it handle a little bit better? We know Demerit likes to go up high no matter what track he's at. You think back to what he's done, for example, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that is really important with these cars is the anti-roll bars, because not only do they sort of control the mechanical grip in the suspension, but they also have an effect on the aerodynamic performance of the car as well. Because if you think about it, the car, if it rolls more in the corners, the underwing that produces so much downforce in this car is less effective. So having the right settings in your car is going to be very, very important, especially when you have cars as competitive as these top 6 seem to be right now.
They've split away from Matt Hollaba and Tony Schowen. Top 6 About 1 second clear of that battle further behind them. Traino has Newsom for company. Blockers in front of Demerit, and Van der Sant slid into the wall. Might not bring out the yellow because he's down below the white line, but eventually it came out. Debris strewn across the track. We're back under caution, and Alexander Van der Sant is the cause of all the chaos.
Definitely not what Alexander Van der Sant needed to start his season. He had such a strong season in Season 1, but that was not the way he needed to start Season 2. And I think this was Power Slide trying to find settings that worked. And Van der Sant, he's in the most dirty area out of all of the drivers here. And he gets a really nice run down on the corner, but you can see just how loose he was already in the middle of the corner, and he just never really gathered it up throughout that entire corner. The back end was just always coming around on him. So it definitely looks like this Power Slide car is not the most stable car. Even we haven't really had a long run. This is just a short run. So this, if I'm the rest of the Power Slide team, I'd be incredibly nervous right now seeing Van der Sant lose it that early on in the corner, this early on in a stint.
Now, will we see any cars dive down onto pit road other than, of course, that Van der Sant machine? And, well, we've got some split strategies going on here. Newsom and Blocker have come on in, and there you can see that split. Only 4 cars in the top 15 have elected to stay out. Traino, Demerit, Brazil, and Wilhite are the cars that will stay out there. Looks like everyone else is coming down to pit lane. Thoughts on this call, Andrew? Because, again, we said the fuel number anywhere from 45 to 50 laps.
Yeah, I think this is a reflection of just how strong the i5G car seems to be, where Traino and Demerit are just comfortable staying out. And I think we've seen this in the past from the likes of Marco Brazil, where he likes being towards the front with the cleaner air. He tends to run a little bit lower downforce than most other drivers do. He likes the top speed, and he likes having that clean air and being able to sort of dictate the pace from the front. So it doesn't surprise me that he's also made that call. The one person who does sort of surprise me a little bit is Chris Wilhite, but I do like that call for him as well, just to get him a little bit of track position and see what he can do a little bit closer to the front, because he was sort of mired way back in the pack there. So seeing what his car does at the front is useful information at this point in the run.
Started down in 17th spot, did Wilhite, so he's gained 13. David Henger also electing to stay out. He will have gained now 15 positions from where he started. Let's talk about Alexis Newsom making that switch over to Team i5G. It's the right time to do it. You know, building the speed, this is where the preparation really begins. As you dial in the setup, you get your qualifying practice underway, because nailing a practice run under the pressure of that 4-lap run through qualifying is intense. It's a good time to make the move. The question, of course, will be, how does she fit into the team? Because we know the i5G bunch are, should we call them Mimi boys? Well, should we call them jovial? But Alexis is going to have to become part of that crew to really ingratiate herself through the progression into the month of May.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that Alexis is definitely up for the challenge. She is definitely, at least from a driving standpoint, certainly has demonstrated that she is more than capable of wheeling a car well around any oval, really. And so it comes as no surprise that a team like i5G would really look for someone to strengthen their roster like Alexis Newsom, who's not only demonstrated good race pace and the ability to win races in Lionheart, but she's also demonstrated pole winning speed on a number of different occasions. So this is, I think, definitely a good move from i5G to snap up someone like Alexis, and I think a good move for Alexis as well, because it does definitely get her sort of into another level in terms of Indy 500 preparation. Just with a team like i5G, they've been around the block so often, they know what they're doing in terms of setup, especially at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So I think it's going to be a good move all around, and you're right, only time will tell how she fits in with that bunch, but from a driving standpoint, I think that it's definitely a good call for them.
What is Robert Malechka doing? Because the lights are still on the pace car. I thought we were going back to green there, I'm not going to lie. So I guess he's just trying to save some fuel, maybe? I'm not 100% sure about that one. So at least one more lap under pacing here. So confirmed 2 retirements. Rodrigo Franzoni and Tim Williams claimed victims of that first caution. You'd assume Alexander Van der Sant already 4 laps down on the field, likely to become victim number 3. Tanner McCulloch is still going, albeit 2 laps down from the field, but I think he's managed to get most, if not all, of that damage repaired on the number 8 car. McCulloch, of course, works at iRacing as one of the vehicle development associates, so good to see him, out there on track and getting some actual race laps under his belt as well, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to see the iRacing staff come out and take part in some of these races, and that's one of the cool things about iRacing is you do see so many of the staff members interacting with real official races and coming in and really experiencing what everybody else is experiencing. So it's one of those nice things about a sim like iRacing that happens. But here we see Van de Sant moving back out as the lights come off, so he's going to be a couple laps down, but it'll be interesting to see if his car is also repaired.
Looks like 3 laps down for him, so he'll be hoping for a couple more cautions, try and salvage something from this race, get some good points on the board. Remember, Powerslide finished 1, 2, 3, 4 in the championship last season, but out front it's Brandon Traino, Christopher Demeritte of Team i5G. As the pace car peels off, they're ready to bring us to the green. Brazil, Will Henger, the other cars that stayed out there with worn rubber, 2 cautions under our belt. Less than 20 laps into this race, Brandon Traino gets a good jump at the front. Demeritte struggling a little bit to keep up the paces. The cars with fresh tires now have to try and see what exactly they're going to be worth. Blocker is the first of those cars. Excuse me, Newsom would be the first of those cars. She's going to have to try and get past Henger. But Brazil has already leapfrogged to the front of Demeritte. We talked about how he likes to get clean air. Well, one more car and he's got plenty of it.
Yeah, this is definitely straight out of Marco Brazil's playbook. He loves that clean air, and it looks like he's got a fast car under him today. That Indy Alliance car is working well so far. The question will be, will he be able to find a way past Traino to make that car work in the long run? Because Demeritte, even if he might have been sleeping a little bit on that start, Demeritte definitely doesn't look like he's going to let Brazil get away very easily here.
Demeritte, by iRating, is the strongest driver in the field, 7,090 iRating. See how that plays out on track. Not always the best indicator in terms of ability, but you do have to accumulate it. Here comes Newsom to the inside of Henger. That one will be done fairly simply. Henger not choosing to fight too hard. Back in the pack, 13th and 14th. Will Lyon, Adam Crane side by side for a moment. Of course, Lyon has plenty to learn on the ovals, but can be extremely rapid on the road courses. Road Atlanta next week might just be his hunting ground as he tries to best Adam Blocker. There was also a moment where AJ Musselman and Tony Schowen were side by side, but Blocker is struggling to close on David Henger in front of him. He's got to really try and close a little bit more to make the tires work while they're the freshest.
And more importantly, Arjuna, Alexis Newsom has gotten around Adam Blocker and stayed around him. So that means that once she and Demeritte dispense with Will Height in Brazil, then it could be an i5G trio at the front, and it could be very, very difficult now for Adam Blocker to really get track position going on into this race here.
Look at the speed. Just look how fast they go. There's a great video that Connor Daly put on social media about what qualifying is going to be like this weekend. Foot to the floor and just hope you don't wreck. And, well, you're lifting a little bit here in the dirty air, but it's a fast, furious, and intense workout. Think about the G-forces that get placed onto these drivers as well. Musselman and Tony Schowen, well, they're squabbling with one another, but surely they've got to start thinking about the guys catching from behind, the fact that the guys in front are pulling away. Now 1 second back from David Porcelli as Lyon looks down low.
Yeah, Will Lyon, he's got the same setup as your second place driver, Marco Brazil. So he's likely got a very strong setup as well. So certainly one of the things that you need to do in a speedway race like this, when we have still over 100 laps to go, is you really start to have to think about, do I really want to squabble with the drivers around me right now? And it definitely seems like the squabbling between Lyon, Schowen, and Musselman is really costing them a lot of time here. So it's a question of, do we really want Musselman to lead here? And do we think Musselman can get us back up to the back end of David Porcelli, Robert Malechka in front of us? Or is it really worth squabbling around? But here we see Matt Holliba is now overhauling Adam Blocker here. So Blocker looks like he's in some deep trouble here in terms of his dirty air pace.
Yeah, really starting to struggle. But I tell you, Alexis Newsom has not been able to really close too much on former teammate Chris Wilhite in front, as David Henger might have had a look to the inside. Here comes Brazil looking to the outside of him as we jump And take a look at Brandon Traynor. Look how calm and focused he is. And that's something that differentiates the average drivers, the me's, from those at the top of their game. The fact that when they're wheel to wheel at speeds like this, they don't break a sweat. And Andrew, you know plenty about that. In a race like this, you've got to make sure you don't get your heart rate up too high, because even only 133 laps here, it's still a fairly lengthy race.
Yeah, absolutely. Now is not the time to panic in any driver situation here. There's still a long way to go in this race, and anything can happen. So, yeah, Traynor is definitely one of the coolest drivers that you'll meet in terms of he's just able to stay right on an even keel throughout the entire race. Probably even when he's about to win an Indy 500 at this point, he's still on an even keel. So, as you see Van de Sant going down onto the apron there, so his car is definitely not handling well right now. So I suspect that we won't see Van de Sant out there for very much longer.
Let's pick up a replay. Something's happened back in the pack, and I think that's Laura Gerhard and maybe David Graybill who get mixed up with one another, and Graybill almost goes up into the catch fence. And grab another look there. We maybe need to grab a look on board with Graybill. Maybe Gerhard just squeezes a bit there, Andrew. Really hard to tell.
Yeah, the track narrows down really bad on the exit of 2, and this is sort of the second incident where we've seen the car on the inside sort of drift up just a little bit, and nothing David Graybill can do there, unfortunately. It's just, again, it's one of those things that sort of happens at Texas, and you have to be very, very aware of who you're putting your car on the outside of and what their car is doing. And it's definitely a risk versus reward sort of pass. But at the same time, that outside pass, especially as the run starts to go on and the tires start to fall off, that outside pass is really the only way to get around people in many cases. So it's one of those things where you have to weigh, is this the right time to make that move?
Even though they have split themselves up, there's battling at the front, there's battling in the mid-pack as well. For 11th, it's still Musselman that leads from Lyon, Crane and company. Demerit and Brazil getting increasingly close between the two of them, as well as Brazil's just searching for a way and might have a lane down to go look low on your race leader. Brandon Traynor trying to cover off the move, has the momentum, and Brazil, well, might try and find a way to slot back into line. Does this open the door for Christopher Demerit?
Yeah, that was Marco really trying to make that move work, and it almost did. He just wasn't quite able to overcome the strength of Brandon Traynor there. But I was actually kind of surprised that Traynor moved off the bottom as much as he did there and really opened up that door. But I don't think we're going to see that happen again for a few laps here. But what we've seen is that move has really cost Brazil in the long run, because it sort of overheated his tires just a little bit, checked up all of his momentum, and now he's lost both to Demerit and now to Chris Wilhite as well.
I wonder if that was a strategic play between the teammates to try and get Demerit up front and shuffle Brazil back. There's no guarantee by any means that it would work out that way, but maybe they're communicating. That's the benefit here of things like Discord, TeamSpeak, where you can jump into a call with one another and communicate in real time. There you can see the move is in shakers so far. Chris Wilhite is 14 positions gained by virtue of staying out there after his poor qualifying through a couple of the cautions that we've had. David Henger holding on nicely to 7th, and in fact gapping Adam Blocker to the tune of 0.8 of a second right now. Blocker going to start coming under fire from his teammate Malechka. Here comes Brazil though, back down the inside of Wilhite, and he'll try and slide up the track and move his way forward. Brazil back to 3rd.
Yeah, I'm wondering if those power slide drivers, they were all sort of feeling just how that same loose sensation that caught Van de Sant out, and they've sort of dialed in some understeer into their car, and it's whatever they've done, it's not making their car handle nearly as well as it was at the beginning of this race. So it looks like the power slide drivers are in trouble, but the Indy Alliance drivers of Brazil and Wilhite, I'm really, really surprised and amazed at how well they've been able to hang on old tires nonetheless.
Alexis Newsom is dispatched of Wilhite, almost got the momentum to run past Brazil as well, but Brazil slammed the door shut half a lap ago, and now by virtue of checking up the momentum of Newsom, Wilhite will cycle forward once more. A bit of an indication that maybe tires aren't that important. If we get a late caution and You're making that call. This is all valuable data that will be going your direction. Malechka and Porcelli, they battle on the edge of the top 10. Porcelli makes his way further forward. And remember as well, because we had that Indy Alliance race yesterday, the Indy Elite Series race, yesterday, a lot of these teams have got an understanding of where their setup is, and Newsom ran pretty well in that race, but now, well, that momentum has been totally killed off. Here comes Matt Holliber down to the inside.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the cliff here from the Alliance drivers, but one of the things that you see here is, just as you mentioned, momentum is so important at this track to get these passes done, because you really do have to make sure that you're clearing the drivers around you by the exit of the corner, or else you aren't able to really complete the pass. So we saw Holliber take a really big stab at it. I'll be interested to see just how many people try that really, really high line that Alexis Newsom and Matt Holliber are trying now, seeing if they can get some momentum off the high side. I think that'll be key going forward here. But they really need to dispatch of those Indy Alliance drivers. As we see a replay, who was that in the fence there, Archie?
That was David Graybill, who tried to get back out onto track, but maybe the weight jacket not where he wanted it to be. Plenty of damage. Looked like Alexander Van der Sande got swarmed by this pack for third on back, as now the gap between the i5G cars out front and this battle for third is up to 3, almost 4 seconds. Newsom's down low, should have clear the rest of those cars behind with that fresh rubber, Now Brazil's having to defend as Matt Holliber manages to slice his way in front of him. 45 laps into this race, 2 cautions means likely the cars that haven't pitted will be down on maybe lap 52 or so, Andrew. So this again, I'll go back to what I was saying earlier. Old tires, not really that much of a pain point so far.
Yeah, well, I think also keep in mind, Arjuna, that everyone did pit sort of at that like lap 11, lap 12 mark. So it isn't as big a tire difference as perhaps we could see later on in this race. I do think that given how far these lap times have fallen off, that there is a distinct advantage to having those fresher tires that you're seeing, especially from the likes of Brandon Traino and Chris Demerit out front. It's just that it took so long for Alexis Newsom and Matt Holliber to get by Will Height and Brazil that they weren't able to stay with them, and that's really what the difference is here.
Look at how Matt Holliber just runs himself up through the corner. Andrew mentioned it earlier, if there was PJ1 here in the sim, there's no way that you'd be able to do that, but Holliber clearly has enough confidence in his setup to be able to roll that momentum. Across the line they come once more, 46 laps in the books, edging our way closer and closer towards the halfway point of this race. Gap between first and third now up to 5 seconds. It's an i5G 1, 2, and 3, but Newsom has got plenty of offense behind her to be worried about. Brazil has been holding up David Henger potentially as well, almost now breaking out of the drafting range and getting closer and closer to David Porcelli, Adam Blocker, and Malechka. Porcelli, in fact, has gotten past Adam Blocker, so...
I was going to say, shout out to David Porcelli. We often think of him more as a road racer than an oval racer, but he's doing a really nice job here in 8th place, and he, as you mentioned, just recently got around Adam Blocker there, but here comes Marco Brazil, the first of the leaders and those people who stayed out to take a dive on a pit road here.
So lap 49, the magic number for Marco Brazil, who now has to execute on pit road. Where is Traino? Where is Demerit? They're still winding their way around the track. Lap time hasn't really dropped off too much for them. Only 2/10 slower as Brandon Traino, and his fastest lap of the race so far. He'll continue to work around the track as Brazil goes up on the jacks. A 9.7 second stop for him, so relatively lengthy. Now the question will be, where does he feed out in the comparison to the rest of the field? He's working his way on the access road. Van der Sande will go on through, so Brazil's going to have some clean air. He's going to come out just, I think, in front of Brandon Traino and Christopher Demerit, because you don't go a full lap down. In fact, no, sorry, you do go a full lap down here. You don't go 2 laps down. Yeah,
it's basically roughly a lap and a half that you go down by pitting under green. So it's definitely the fact that Brazil is now in the danger zone, where if a caution does come out here before this pit cycle is completed, this is really where things can go off the rails. And I think we will see Traino and Demerit coming down pit lane fairly soon here, if my calculations are correct. So it'll be interesting to see whether these cautions can save some drivers here. But the power slide duo of Blocker and Malechka, who we just saw on screen, their car is not working well. Will Lyon is now past them as well, and they have fallen. We saw them just behind David Porcelli not a few laps ago. Now they've fallen almost 2 seconds back of Porcelli. So the power slide car not handling well on this long run.
Out front, Traino and Demerit have extended to 53 laps and counting and ticking away. That's 54 now, getting underway for them. Still waiting for Wilhite and Henger to come on down as they work themselves through a bit of lap traffic. That's Laura Gerhardt in that 20 car. Might see Alexander Van der Sant retiring that car as well. He came down to pit lane. I think a little bit too much damage. Really hasn't been able to recover anything there. Demerit stays out, but here comes onto pit lane Brandon Traino, locking up the inside tire as Van der Sant, in fact, will roll and stay out on track. Traino's joined by Wilhite. Henger will stay out there, and if you're that second car in line, we do know that, Andrew, you can do a bit of fuel saving. That's what Demerit's counting on.
Yeah, absolutely. This is hopefully the move that Demerit thinks can get him into the lead. He even goes another lap, in fact, so looks like he was able to save 2 laps of fuel hanging on behind his teammates. So the important thing for Demerit now is to make sure that he gets through these laps as quickly as he can. He's probably going to come down this time by, and if he can find a way to be back in the back in front of his teammate, this could be the opportunity that Demerit seizes on in order to get in as he goes even another lap. This is really surprising.
Yeah, no, this is impressive as well. Could he even get maybe to lap 60? There's no danger of him making it a one-stop race to the end, but maybe he bumped down the fuel map. We'll have to wait and see. Brandon Traino, by the way, has come out in a little bit of clean air, as AJ Musselman has also come down onto pit road this most recent time by. Clean entry from Demerit, who does lock the left front, but the speed traps in pit road are based on averages rather than an actual speed limit, so it's probably likely to be okay. David Henger continues to stay out there on track, so he's on lap 58 and counting. Brandon Traino working his way through cars still yet to come down pit lane. They're likely due in 4, 5, maybe 6 laps from now, because we've gone green since that last caution. Green flag pit stops change the game. And look at how, with this significant delta in the tire life, he's just carving through the likes of Adam Blocker.
Now, let me run something by you, Arjuna. We know that Power Slide normally doesn't miss this badly on the setups. Could it be that they are trying to cut out a stop here?
I did think about that, but I mean, I'll defer to you in terms of pit stop strategy. I think that's probably a bold call.
Well, because we did see that Demerit stretched it out to roughly 58 laps. Now, there were some caution laps in there. And we saw that Henger was able to stretch it out all the way to lap 60 here. So I wonder if they've even dialed it back even further, put it in fuel map 5, and said, we can't really pass anyone on track. It's been so tough to pass. Why don't we just try and see if we can save the fuel?
Again, I thought about it, but a 32-second time down pit lane for a full stop likely means just under 30 seconds for a slightly shorter final stop, which we might see from some of the teams. They've already lost about 9 seconds to Alexis Newsom, who would likely be our main comparison given the i5G and Power Slide performance in the early stages. Lap time drop off for Blocker is about 0.4 of a second, so...
But if they only have to make one more stop and everybody else has to make 2, then who they're really racing right now is Brandon Traino, right? So I could be just apologizing for how poor the Power Slide setup is.
Bias.
Right now. I'm fully aware of that. But if they are able to make it to lap 83, let's say, or sorry, 75, 77. If they're able to make it to lap 77, then that is going to tell you that they're going to be able to make it on one more stop.
So they need to get 13 laps further into the run. That would be a 51 lap stint. Of course, does include a couple of laps under caution that they had as well. Traino and Demerit now cycle their way past Will Lyon and David Porcelli, who are battling for third position on track. Adam Blocker is tucked up nicely behind Adam Crane. It's not a bad place to be doing some fuel saving. Last time, the lap time comparison between Newsom and Blocker, and we'll do that comparison just because they're on the same tire life, so it gives you a better indication. 20.4 versus a 25.2. So it looks like the i5G prediction desk also believes Powerslide are saving. The question will be, is that going to put them back into contention? Lyons down on pit lane now. So another 11 or so laps. Can Powerslide eke that mileage out of the fuel tank?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tight, but it definitely seems like they could be doing it. It's a bold call if that's what they're doing. I will say that. It is a very bold call for them to make, particularly when you see just how far and how fast Brandon Traino and Christopher Demerit are going. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting race, I think, but I think there might just be some strategy at play here.
And watching Blocker fall back from Adam Crane does kind of lend credence to that idea as well, as Matt Hollabaugh is going to come down to pit road this time by. Now...
Oh, caution!
And that change, I was just about to say, if we get a caution, it changes everything. I didn't even have to verbalize the words. Gil Ribeiro brings out the caution, and it's going to trap the likes of Brandon Traino, Christopher Demerit, and company down a lap. Well, again, that changes everything. Let's go see what exactly happened here, because it's a solo car incident just washing up the track out of turn 4. And for Brandon Traino and Christopher Demerit here, Andrew, you're feeling pretty frustrated right now.
Yeah, this was exactly the danger that they were running by pitting so much sooner than everyone else. And of course they were forced to because of the fuel strategy, but this was absolutely 100% the dice roll that they were rolling. And unfortunately it came up snake eyes for them. So
snake eyes, tell me what that means, sorry.
To be honest, it's just an expression that I've heard.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I tell you what, let's take this opportunity. That doesn't look like the face of a happy man right now.
It definitely doesn't. But at the same time, it's not complete disaster for Brandon Traino. He does still have the time to potentially make this work. He's only going to be in 11th spot, so it's not completely 100% done.
That looked a little bit more like the frustration. Then there's a smile coming through as well. Yeah. Maybe he's just playing up for the camera there.
Yeah, as long as they're able to get around the field here, they do still stand a chance. The problem is that they're not going to be able to come down pit lane and get the wave around. So it really will trap them back in the field on older tires. So yeah, it's definitely not ideal for the i5G team, but yeah, definitely not ideal, but I think that it can still be done. The problem is, of course, that they have right now a really strong teammate in Alexis Newsom, who was able to take tires, and this might be her race to lose, I think, at this point.
So now from here, could anyone be bold enough to try and get to the end without a pit stop? Of those who have come down to pit, which includes Newsom, Malechka, Porcelli, Spots, Blocker, Crane, Showen, and Craig. 8 cars coming down this time.
Yeah, so it's going to be, what is that, it'll be a 60-lap stint here. So that's asking a lot with no caution. But the way that things have gone, I tend to think that a caution could happen in the last half of this race. So I think that you're going to see some people try and attempt this, Arjuna. I think particularly if maybe you're Adam Blocker or Robert Malechka or Tony Showen, where your car maybe isn't handling the way you want it to, this is where you really just double down on the strategy and see if we can make it to the end from here.
So now we wait for Matt Hollabaugh, Brandon Traino, Christopher Demerit, Chris Wilhite, Marco Brazil, Will Line, David Henger, and AJ Musselman to all get the wave around. I'll line up then back in the pack. Next time by, they should get released to cycle their way around. And I'll say, I don't know. I mean, we've been criticized, maligned potentially for being a bit too biased towards power side. I'm going to be a bit biased and say I don't think that car was handling terribly. Right? You look at how that first 10 laps went. Right, just until that first caution before Van der Sant lost it. Blocker definitely looked more comfortable in clean air, but by no means were they slower. By no means were they wrecking loose or plowing loose. I just think maybe they thought that they expected maybe Demerit and Traino to come down on that second caution, and so they thought on the fly once they didn't, and they adapted their strategy from there.
I think it's a distinct possibility. I will say, though, that the one thing that gives me pause on that is that it definitely didn't look like the car was happy the longer the run went on, regardless of whether they were saving or not. The few times we did look at Adam Blocker in particular, he didn't seem to be able to really hold the car on the bottom very well.
Adam Crane's coming in, so I think there's indications that at least one car is going to try and fuel save Andrew, sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that is definitely an indication that he is going to try and make this work, and I think we're just right on the edge here. With some fuel map help, though, it's a distinct possibility. The question, though, is do you even really want to take that risk? Because you know that everyone behind you is going to pit again. And how many of the people in front of you do you really want to... it's a tough call. It really is a tough call to try and make it from here.
I'll put you on the spot. If you're in the behind the wheel, what are you choosing to do?
If I'm Alexis Newsom, I think that I just have to put the power down and go. I don't think that she's going to be able to save enough fuel in the clean air. If I'm Adam Blocker, I might roll the dice and try and make it.
So, third caution of the day after interrupting the green flag cycle of pit stops. It leaves Newsom in control of the field with Malechka, Porcelli, Spots, and Blocker rounding out the top 5. Can anyone make it without diving back down onto pit lane? Well, we're about to find out. Green flag back in the air, and Newsom's got a great jump on Malechka. An even better jump, though, does Porcelli have on Brian Spots, who was caught napping just a little bit, and Blocker's looking to the outside. Spots covers him off, washes up the track, and doesn't allow Blocker to build that momentum. Building up the speed, though, Newsom breaks the draft. Bit of action back in the pack as Adam Crane, I think, immediately has gone on the fuel-saving games. Look at the gap already in front of him.
Yeah, and this is not what any of these drivers on older tires wanted to see, is all of these gaps that have already accumulated. You look at the likes of Brandon Traino, already 2.5 seconds back of Alexis Newsom after just one lap, and it's only going to get worse if Traino can't dispatch of Crane quickly. So I think that you're going to see Traino and Hollabaugh and Demerit trying to get by all of these drivers as quickly as possible, and I think there's a recipe for chaos here as we watch the battle on the bottom here between Traino, Rashad Craig, and Demerit as well.
We like a little bit of chaos, though, don't we? That's what ovals, especially these high-speed ovals, bring for you. Crane has managed to close that buffer in front, now down to just half a second between him and Tony Schowen. Hollabaugh's looking forward, Traino's looking down low, searching for some clean air to put onto the nose of that car. Blocker's running around in fifth. He's not forcing the issue just yet. Hollabaugh looks up high. Traino thinks about following him. Now we'll go to the middle, trying to get to the outside of Adam Crane. 3 wide on the exit of the corner. Both those cars get on past through Adam Crane. I think Adam Crane clearly committing to the fuel saving.
Yeah, no question that Adam Crane is fuel saving. He saw that he had just no power through that down that straightaway, so he is in full fuel map 5, full fuel save mode here. And having the cars around him right now is definitely going to help him in that quest. And if he can stay in the draft as much as he can on that strategy, but looking back towards the front of this field, it definitely looks like Adam Blocker, Robert Malechka, and these top 5, they are not fuel saving. They are definitely going for it as fast as they can. And they've put in a nice gap to Tony Schowen back in 6th.
Yeah, 1.2. Schowen now sees his mirrors getting bigger and bigger with Hollabaugh, Demerit, and Traino coming. Now remember, Hollabaugh is only a lap or two offset from the leaders. He had just come down to pit lane when that caution flew. Traino, Demerit, they're 20-odd laps into their run, so a bit of an offset in terms of the tires there. Maybe they'll be hoping for Hollabo to punch the hole through Schowen towards the front of the field where they'll try and follow through. Looking forward as they go 3 wide, I think, back for that position. In fact, yes, they are. Tony Schowen's going to lose not 1 but 2 in the space of a lap. Nope. Demerit cuts back into line. Brandon Traino actually didn't get a great run through turns 1 and 2. He's falling back a little bit. I wonder if he's nursing those tires. Remember, he came in earliest out of all the cars we're seeing right now.
Yeah, of all the drivers here, Traino's in the worst shape in terms of tires, and I think that's showing. I think that those extra laps that Demerit ran, and we talked about earlier, that's really what's paying the difference here for him. But Hollabo is the one that's really showing strong here. He definitely has the ability to really push that car, and it looks like that car is working really well under him, and he is not letting the likes of Demerit and Traino really get a run on him right now.
Look at how high he's going. Usually it's Demerit that we see running that line. He'll bank it off of the corner and hold on there. Looks like Brian Spott's looking down low, trying to get the position back from Adam Blocker, who did cycle into the top 4 momentarily, but now drops back just outside of that major drafting range. But Hollabo's lap time's looking good. One of the fastest cars, if not the fastest car on the track inside of the top 5. Only Brandon Traino actually going faster last time by. Demerit looks down low once more, trying to finally get on past Tony Schowen, who's putting up a good fight, but might just have to give it up now.
Yeah, and I think that this definitely shows Arjuna that apart from Adam Crane, none of these drivers are fuel saving here, and I'm not even sure that Adam Crane is still saving at this point. I think he might just be thinking it's a little bit too far, but it also just goes to show just how tall an order it is for Brandon Traino and Christopher Demerit to really get back into this race. But if our predictions are correct, we've got one more fuel stop for everyone in this field, so I think that could be the thing that mixes it up even more. But right now, it's definitely Newsom and that top 5, and then a distinct gap to everyone else.
Will Lyon chucks it down the inside of Rashad Craig, and his teammate Chris Wilhite wants to try and follow suit, manages to get past on that back straight. There was almost contact between Craig and Wilhite on the run into turn 1. Some miscommunication between those two cars as they both went outside, and Wilhite thought that maybe Craig was going to leave him some room, but they managed to sort it out in time. Wilhite will sling it once more to the outside line. We say Crane's maybe not saving so much fuel, but I think as soon as he's got some cars in front of him to draft off of, then he starts saving the fuel. When he's got clean air, then he realizes that it's more important to not lose too much time, but lap time last time by about 4/10 off the pace.
Yeah, that's a very fair point, Arjuna. And the other thing that I want to bring up is that we've already seen that the Indy Alliance setup here really has been one of the stronger long-run setups. We saw that Wilhite and Brazil were really able to stay up with that leading pack for a very long time on old tires, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the likes of Will Lyon and Chris Wilhite really make a little bit more noise as we get into the later stage of this race and the run goes on and on here.
Look at Newsom getting squirrely off the exit of turn 2. Thinks she may have just run herself a bit too close to the wall. Flirting with disaster. Pops up about half a car length from the white line coming through turn 3 and 4. And Robert Malechka does not need a second invitation. He's around the outside and searching for the lead. Newsom will have the shorter distance. Malechka will have the momentum off of the corner. They sprung about a half a second gap back to those in 3rd and 4th. Newsom holds on for now, but you can see just how close to the wall they're getting, just how fast they are going.
Remember, Malechka and Newsom were teammates last year in the Lionheart Speedway Series, and it worked so well together, so it's great to see them racing together, if not on the same team here, with Malechka on the other side of the I-5G Power Slide rivalry here, but they definitely know how to race well together, and it's showing that they can get that close through 3 and 4, because it's difficult to hold it that close through, especially through 3 and 4, because you really do have to pinch the car. If you're on the outside, you have to pinch the inside down a lot, so nice respect there from both of those drivers.
Tony Schowen has been passed by Brandon Traino, who's now about 9/10 back from his teammate, so got some work to do. Matt Hollabo, by the way, carving up through the field, past Brian Spots, past Adam Blocker as well. Demerit wants to look to the inside of that 18 machine. No fight put up there from Spots as we're past the 50 lap to go marker, working our way closer to the 40 lap to go marker, where pit now you could be good to the end. A caution here would really change things up. Allow Demerit Traino to equalize themselves in terms of the tire life. Blocker struggling with the setup. Demerit tries to take advantage. He looks down low and gets himself up into the top 5.
Yeah, slowly and methodically, Holaba and Demerit are working their way up through the field. I think the surprising thing for me is that Holaba is the one leading the way, but the other person that we haven't really talked about in this top 5 is David Porcelli. He's driven an immensely good race, kept his nose clean this entire time, and he is doing a fantastic job here in 3rd place.
How hard will he defend from the charging Holaba? If not for that time, the time of the caution, Holaba very much could have been in the battle for the lead. Now still about a second back. Don't count him out as he'll look up high. Sweeping his way through the corner. Will Lyon as well has gotten past Tony Schowen, who continues to tumble down the field. Brandon Traino has closed the gap to Brian Spots, to Adam Blocker up front. Porcelli continues to defend. Holaba goes up high. At this point in the run, Andrew, where do you want to be, low or high?
I definitely think that you need to have the car working well high like Holaba does. If you can get to the outside of your opponent coming off of 2, that's where you're going to make the move happen. It's very, very difficult to make the move happen on the bottom, but as I say that, Holaba does a nice job sort of diamonding off the corner, really taking advantage of a nice big run down the backstretch, gets the move done on the inside into 3. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up here is I think we're seeing sort of 2 stories from the power slide set. We're seeing that Malechka is able to use the clean air up front that he has with Newsom to hold onto the set, but we are definitely seeing that the further back in traffic, the more problems that the power slide set has. So Blocker and Schowen just do not look happy right now.
Will Lyon had to get on the brakes coming through turn 2 to avoid running into the loose car of Brandon Traino. Marco Brazil down on pit lane, this time by, as Christopher Demerit now has cycled in front of David Porcelli as well, who is starting to slide backwards just very slightly. Demerit with those older tires still looks like he's got a car on rails, kind of in contrast to what Brandon Traino just had to deal with. And you talk about the 2 stories with the power slide setup. Sometimes, even if you're on the same team, you'll run slight variations with the car setup itself because you feel a little bit more comfortable with how the car behaved through the long run, through the traffic as well, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always felt that a setup, a team setup, is there to get you 95% of the way there and get you that platform that's stable, but then that last 5% is often just tweaking it to your personal preference. So it could just be that Malechka's setup is just tweaked in a way that has allowed him to keep it under him for longer compared to the likes of Blocker. As we see, Blocker nearly got up into the wall coming off a 2 there.
He'll lose 1, he'll lose 2. Traino gets past Spots, gets past 2. And at this point, it's too late to commit. If you wanted to try and fuel save to make it a no-stopper after that 3rd and hopefully final caution, you needed to commit straight away, maybe like Adam Crane has been doing. Demerit gets past Holaba, so even 10-lap difference in the tires, not borne out in terms of the pace just yet. Now 1.5 seconds back from the leader, being a good charge through the field. What can Demerit do from here? Is Blocker down on pit road and locks up?
Yeah, this does not surprise me at all, particularly with how the car was evolving throughout that run. This will split this last stint basically in half, so he's going to try and use this the fresh tires here to get the car back underneath him and maybe leapfrog some people. But of course, just like Brandon Traino and Christopher Demerit earlier, this puts Blocker in the danger zone. So this is an all or nothing play from Blocker. Either this works out and he's able to keep the car under him for these last 30 laps and with no caution, and he gets a top 5, or he's probably outside the top 15.
Caution comes out now, puts Adam Blocker's hopes in the bin. Let's take a look at this pit entry and just look at how long he's got those tires locked up for. Maybe 50 meters into that pit road. He'll be hoping that there wasn't a penalty, and based on the time, he was able to roll off without getting dinged by the stewards. Also down on pit lane, David Henger has come in, AJ Musselman have come in. Henger, of course, didn't box on those first couple of cautions, cycled his way forward as a result, so very much looking like the strategy might put himself in a good spot. At the front of the field, though, it's now 1.3 seconds that separates Newsom from Malechka, as Newsom starts to encounter some of those cars that have already come down to pit.
Yeah, this is definitely a strong showing from Alexis Newsom in her I5G debut. She's done everything perfectly so far today. She kept her nose clean throughout that first stint where there was all that battling. And now as the tires go off and her competition sort of falls away in terms of pace, this is where the I5G set has really been strong all day. And this is where Alexis Newsom is really showing what she can do, is she's just pulling away here, not only from the likes of Robert Malechka, but also from her teammate, now 2.5 seconds back for Christopher Demerit.
Demerit might want to come down and pit, I think, sooner rather than later, as Chris Wilhite becomes the latest to make their way into pit road. An 8-second pit stop for him. Now, Adam Blocker has a bit of traffic in front of him on the same lap, although Aaron McCorry has not yet pitted. Blocker will need to dispatch of that number 19 car as expediently as possible. Malechka's going to come in now, and I guess that's because he was starting to struggle as well. Demerit, that I5G car just looks like it's stuck to the ground, even late in the run. So not just for Newsom, that holds promisingly up for her and her pace of the next 10 or so laps here, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely looks like I5G has something that all of these other teams just simply don't have right now. The one exception to that, though, is Brandon Trano. He has definitely not had an easy time of it this stint, and he's fallen well back of his two teammates. And it's actually kind of surprising to me at this point that he's still out there. Actually, as I say that, he goes on to pit lane. So I think he was reading exactly what I was saying there as well. He
was the one with the big puffs of smoke coming down onto pit road. It's much more difficult to stop and slow yourself down than people think. You've got low downforce. We saw this at Indianapolis just last year, for example, when you haven't used the brakes very often. It spins around. Stefan Wilson, one of many that got caught out with that. No major drama, at least for the main contenders. Brandon Traynor with an 8.5 second pit stop matches Tony Schowen, as Malechka's going to emerge clear of Traynor. Now, where will Brandon Traynor feed out in the smorgasbord of strategy? He's going to be behind Blocker, but not too far behind. That's Macquarie, I think. Tanner McCulloch in front of him, and then Macquarie in that orange car that was just out of shot. Car in front, Will Lyon behind. Good showing for Will Lyon overall then, Andrew, as he looks to try and get more and more knowledge on the ovals.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked to Will Lyon a number of times last season, and he's always saying that he's looking to learn on the ovals, and I think he's learning well as he's moving right beneath Brandon Traynor here, and it looks like he might just get the move done here through 3 and 4, so really good move there from Will Lyon. Traynor holding him as tight to the bottom as he can, but there's just nothing Traynor can do. I really do think that that Will Lyon is poised for a breakout season here this season. He definitely was strong last season, but I definitely think that before this season is out, he's going to win one of these races.
He's talking a lot there, is Brandon Traynor, but look at the hand movements. That's what I'm seeing. There's not much steering input in terms of how far it's rotating, but there's a lot of wiggle and wobbling as they work their way through high speeds, just managing the balance of the car. They'll get past Aaron McQuarrie, making sure you've got a grasp on these cars. They don't have power steering, always important. Here comes Demerit onto pit lane. Newsom stays out there, so 22 laps to go. The gap to watch for then, Andrew, is Demerit versus Robert Malechka.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very important time for Christopher Demerit. If he gets out behind Robert Malechka, then Malechka's going to hold him up and probably ensure a win for Alexis Newsom. Conversely here, Newsom also has to be thinking that she's got to come down pit road soon in response to Christopher Demerit. Demerit with a really nice stop there, but Malechka already on the front stretch. I think he might just be able to get back out in front of Christopher Demerit here.
Yeah, there you can see Malechka's already through turn 1, through the middle of turn 1 as well. Demerit's going to come out close potentially to Matt Holliber. That's something to keep your eye on. It's just in front, but Holliber's got speed. Holliber might look to try and get around the outside here, and he does. He sails on through. Demerit's got a lot of work to do, and maybe a danger shot to Alexis Newsom. It's not Demerit that she's got to be worried about. It's Malechka.
Yeah, that was, I think, the danger of staying out as long as they have on these tires, is that all of their competition was putting in really fast lap times on lower fuel and fresher tires. So I don't think that Newsom's making the right call here, staying out as long as she does. I think she really needs to come down pit road right now and get new tires on that car, maximize her time on these fresh tires with low speed, and give her enough time to get past Robert Malechka again, because I do think Malechka's going to be able to get out in front of her.
Here she comes. It's been a 10th there, here a 10th there. She locks up as well on the entry to pit lane, but those 10ths add up. The gap when Malechka dived to pit road was about 1.5 seconds, closer maybe to 2 seconds. It's been Malechka out on track now for 9 laps. If it's 0.2 a lap, you do the math. Malechka might just have the lead and only 18 laps for Newsom to get back to the point. Where is Malechka? He's already into turn 3. I think he's going to sail on through here. In fact, no, maybe not, because he's not at the start-finish line yet. This is
I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, closer than we first thought. But remember, Newsom's got to get up to speed, but she will have the advantage, even if she drops back a fresher rubber later in the stint. Malechka's coming and coming quickly, but Newsom's got that momentum building up. Malechka, though, goes up high through turn 4. Can he get it done? He tucks into the draft. He's got still plenty of speed to go around the outside. They're side by side at the line, and Newsom still defends. Malechka, though, has a nose in front.
Side by side through turns 1 and 2. Will it be Malechka? Will it be Newsom? Newsom holds it on the inside. Malechka's got one more shot.
Caution!
Oh, caution's out.
And that, again, changes everything. It's Will Lyon who has slid backwards into pit road. And oh, Marco Brazil, the teammates get mixed up with one another there. Oh, that's a big old hit. That's a big old hit. Let's see if we can pick up what happened there. You can see just how close they were. Blocker, Traino, and Lyon all with one another. So it's going to be next time coming through turn 4. Now, where's Brazil in this entire equation?
Brazil is farther back. So what happens here is it looks like Brandon Traino and Adam Blocker. Traino blocks Blocker down to the bottom. Blocker gets into the back of Traino. Traino drifts up the track into Will Lyon. Will Lyon with absolutely nowhere to go and pretty much no steering at this point, and he's just trying to find a way down to the bottom, and then bang!
Let's take a couple more looks at this, I tell you. Let's start with the block. This is reminiscent of Colton Herta and Scott Dixon, I think it was, a couple of years ago, but I mean, all's fair in love and war. Jump on board first with Blocker here, and it's a reactionary move from Brandon Traino there. I mean, you always get taught if you're going to move, you do the move early, and that's a little bit too late if you ask me.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. Blocker was already established on the inside there, and it just, there was nothing that he could do at that point. And then Brazil, unfortunately, he just wasn't expecting his teammate to come down across the track there, and I think Will just basically had no steering and was trying to do whatever he could to get down off the track, and then just massive impact between the two teammates. But yeah, going back to Blocker and Traino, it's just a move that we've seen so many times in the real world, in fact, at Texas, and it always seems to end up in tragedy where you just can't make that move coming into turn 3 like that.
It reminds me as well of Lionheart IndyCar Series last year, where Barrett Rolfe on the last lap of the race tried to move, and Connor Harrington moved in reaction to him. Unfortunately, there was no contact there. Barrett Rolfe was actually willing to let off the throttle. Adam Blocker not so willing. You hear the song of the engines. There's fuel burning going on. You all know they've got too much fuel. Lighten the car, lighten the load, increase the speed. You can also see Marco Brazil stricken Dallara IR18 as he tries to work it down onto pit road and to try and salvage potentially even a top 15 result. Who else comes to pit this time by? Looks like Gil Ribeiro. Tanner McCulloch will come on in. Now, there's Alexis Newsom. There's cars in front that will cycle on through. Doesn't look as though there's any cars trapped within those top 8 or so, Andrew, which is where, you know, within 10 laps to go, we would see the wave by happen. We're not going to see that here today, though.
No, and I don't think even if we did have that happen that we would get the wave by, because
sorry,
if I'm not mistaken, yes, it won't actually get to 10 to go here.
Yes, no, I meant that if we were within 10 to go, they drop to the back, not get the wave through. Sorry, correcting myself there. Been thinking too much about sports cars and everything that's going to be happening this weekend. It's a busy weekend of racing, Andrew. I mean, if
it absolutely is.
If you're a motorsports fan, what more could you ask for? IndyCar at Texas, Formula One starting their season off at Bahrain. Doubleheader at Sebring. You've got the World Endurance Championship. You've got the IMSA Sports Car Championship there and all of their support series. Spoiled. We are spoiled for action. The question is, how many screens do you need to watch it all?
I think that there's never enough screens to watch all the action that you want to watch in a racing weekend, but definitely going to be tuning into a lot of racing action over the course of the weekend. It's going to be a good one for sure.
And of course, I'm sure NASCAR is racing somewhere. I didn't even bother to include that, but let's be real. They're racing somewhere.
Any series that uses stages is just not something that I'm interested in watching.
Shots fired to the stage. I mean, let's be honest. I think most people don't enjoy that sort of artificial racing. Now, what day is IndyCar? That's what I'm trying to remember. Is it Saturday? Or?
I believe it's Saturday.
Okay, so that means... Oh, wow. Okay, so that means you've got Sebring World Endurance Championship on Friday. Then Saturday is IndyCar and the IMSA 12 hours of the Sebring. 12 hours of the Sebring? Wow. 12 hours of Sebring. And then Sunday is Formula One. That sounds like a good day to me. Weekend.
Absolutely, it does.
Now, let's talk about real Texas for a moment. There are plans in the offing to try and rubber in that outside lane with the PJ1, excuse me. I don't know if it's going to work. I'd be quite scared if I was a driver trying to rubber that in.
I will say this. The only thing that it can hurt is the cars themselves when the cars go sliding into the wall. But if they go slowly enough and they get enough rubber in there, it definitely could make a difference. And it could mean the difference between a car crashing in the race and not. So I'm just happy that they're willing to try and make something work with that PJ1 compound there.
Rumors speculating and abound about potentially Milwaukee coming back to the calendar for the NTT IndyCar Series. We know how much Adam Blocker loves a good race at the Milwaukee Mile. What will happen in 2023? We'll have to wait and find out, but 11 laps to go here in the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Alexis Newsom, with the freshest tires of them all, can control the pace, as that looks like one car going very, very wildly through the inside. Now, who was that? Regardless, they stay green. Already a 3/10 buffer for Newsom from Malechka, and then further 8/10 gap between Demerit and Hollabaugh. Again, lots of cars scrambling to avoid the chaos there, but we all survive, and here comes the battle for the lead. Malechka around the outside, Demerit running up all the way to the outside of the track, side by side, but Newsom holds on.
And by the way, that was Gil Ribeiro who was trying to let some of the lead lap cars by and just got a little bit too low, clipped the apron, and nearly spun into the infield grass there. But up front, we have an excellent battle between the two teammates, Alexis Newsom, Christopher Demerit, and Robert Malechka, making it 3 wide. Oh, what a move that was.
Now, Demerit will be able to help Newsom in this situation, but they have company. They have company closing quickly. Porcelli now half a second back as Hollabaugh, Crane, Spots, Traino, they all get in on the fun. Adam Blocker has actually dropped all the way down to 12th position. Not sure exactly what happened there. Through turn 1, they come once more. Malechka's just a little bit too far back, and at this point, with the oldest tires of the top 3, might be difficult to try and make something happen.
Yes, I think that right now we're seeing that the speed of the i5G car is just too strong. If you're asking me, it's probably a 2-horse race right now. Christopher Demerit, Alexis Newsom, the debutante for the i5G team versus the veteran of that team. And I think that this is going to be a fantastic finish between these two teammates.
Malechka's actually might even lose the spot to David Porcelli, who looks a bit lower to try and get the draft from Newsom. Bit by bit, Malechka falls back. Half a second the gap there as through turn 4 they come once more across the line. 6 laps to go here. Malechka's actually closing though, just bit by bit. I would not count out even Porcelli. Look at the speed that he's got down low. He's got the freshest tires of them all. He might be the one to watch here as They come down into turn 3 once more. What a story it would be if Porcelli could work his way past the i5G contingent out front to take a victory here.
Can David Porcelli make it work? He really used some clean air to his advantage the last time through turns 1 and 2. But now he faces a daunting task between the i5G teammates, and he's going to find clean air a lot harder to come by for the remainder of this race. But what a drive it has been for David Porcelli. Up front, though, Alexis Newsom doing exactly what she needs to do as we almost get another caution. Gil Ribeiro is loose on the bottom of turns 1 and 2 right now. He stays down, we stay green. But that was a very close call there for a second.
Approaching the point of no return. At this point, a caution would surely end the race. Can we survive the 3.5 more laps? The teammates out front and in control. Brandon Traynor rides in 8th, Adam Blocker in 14th. The two that initiated the tussle that sent Will Line into the wall, that brought out that 4th caution of the day. Porcelli builds up steam, but again, just can't find any clean air. Looks to the middle, the second groove up the track. Demerit feeds him just a little bit more dirty air. 2.5 laps to go.
Can David Porcelli pull one more run out of the hat here? This is all he needs, is to find clean air through turns 1 and 2, but the teammates out front, they're simply not letting that happen right now. Porcelli, I think, needs to get a little bit creative here with 2 to go. Just find a way to get some clean air, get a proper run going, and he might just have something. But right now, it looks like the teammates are cooperating, and Alexis Newsom is well on her way to earning a debut win for i5G.
Matt Holloway will get past Adam Crane as they try and swarm themselves past Robert Malechka. Crane has fresher tires to them, but white flag out, and side by side, the teammates working towards turn 1 for the final time. Porcelli's in the popcorn seat, ready to pick up any scraps that might just be lying. Rule number 1 of racing, don't hit your teammate, but Demerit's just not close enough to challenge, not close enough to hit Alexis Newsom. On debut for Team i5G, Alexis Newsom will lead the charge to the line. Christopher Demerit fights it all the way, but Newsom wins at Texas. It's the first time in 13 weeks that we've got a non-Powerslide Motorsports winner here on a Monday night. And Alexis Newsom signals the start of her i5G career with a promising victory. What a race! Plenty of cautions, plenty of strategy mix-ups, Andrew, but ultimately a fantastic race was had.
What a way to make a statement on your debut from Alexis Newsom. Great drive throughout the course of this race. She did everything she needed to do to take home this victory here today. And there's no question that i5G team has sounded off a shot in front of the Powerslide Motorsports team that i5G is here and is going to compete throughout the course of this season. So I think that we have just seen the first step in what is bound to be a fascinating duel to the end of this season.
Broke the left rear suspension trying to do some donuts. It's going to struggle to do some controlled donuts, but plenty of chaos will be had as Alexis Newsom burns it down in the Lone Star State. Christopher Demerit tried to fight it to the line, but by 0.04 of a second, he ends this race in second, still 7 positions up from where he qualified. Newsom wins after leading about 40-odd laps here today. David Porcelli, what a drive for him. +8 from a starting spot outside of the top 10. Really a breakout performance for him. In effect, working by himself. Robert Malechka with old tires drops back to 4th, and a difficult day for the Powerslide Motorsports camp. Adam Crane finishes then in 5th, 10 positions up from where he qualified. Matt Holloway 6th with Rashad Craig in 7th. He also punched in the fastest lap in those final laps after that final restart. Brandon Traynor, well, put it on pole, but finishes in 8th. He was caught out by the cautions, and unfortunately not able to carve his way back through the field like his teammate Christopher Demerit was. Chris Wilhite 9th, Tony Schowen then rounds out the top 10. A good day, by the way, for Chris Wilhite, really showing some of his pace. Brian Spotts in 11th with AJ Musselman in 12th. David Henger 13th. Adam Blocker likely had just a little bit of damage after that moment with Brandon Traynor because he limps his car across the line into 14th. Final car on the lead lap. Justin Gable 15th, while after being involved in the first caution of the day, Tanner McCulloch finishes 16th, Aaron McCrory 17th, Laura Gerhardt 18th, Gil Ribeiro 19th, Alexander Van der Sande able to scrounge a top 20 after enduring what must have been a rather miserable end to this race. Marco Brazil, Will Lyon, the two teammates came together. Brazil finishes in front but leads the graveyard of retirees. David Graybill, Rodrigo Franzoni, Tim Williams round out the field. Well, we'll wait for the chance to chat to some of the teams and drivers. Do keep in mind there's more IndyCar action to come later tonight in about 40 odd minutes time at 10:05 p.m. Eastern, 7:05 p.m. Pacific. The Lionheart Speedway Series gets itself underway from the Homestead Miami Speedway, the place where all Lionheart title runs will begin. Well, we do have Alexis Newsom ready to join us, so let's go speak to the debutant for Team i5G. Alexis, congratulations on the victory. Good day for the team. Talk to us about now being part of this IndyCar juggernaut.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear.
Well, I'm really very happy to be able to pull that off in my first race with i5G. They were I've been practicing for this all week, and Trainer did a great job on the set, and it was it's a different experience than I'm used to. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I mean, obviously now it starts off well. You've got more racing to come tonight, of course, and we'll let you get off to focus on that. But it's all about now building to the month of May. i5G's made their name at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What are your hopes heading in to the 2022 iRacing Indy 500?
Well, mostly not hit the wall or get a black flag, like I did in the ones last year. But probably aiming for a top 5. I mean, obviously, anything I can go higher than that would be great. But top 5 would be, I think, a realistic goal for me.
Well, congratulations.
And hopefully, i5G can pull it off again.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, they're going to be the ones to beat. Congratulations, Alexis, and good luck for your title defense, which kicks off tonight.
Thank you. Have a good night.
We'll see Alexis Newsom later on RaceSpotTV. Now, though, a man that we haven't seen too much of on a Monday night recently, Christopher Demerit, was bullied into joining the race today. And Chris, I mean, you had fun. You had to carve your way through the field, yes, but what more could you ask for on your return to the IndyCar Open Series?
I mean, you can ask for P1, but I'll take a P2 for an i5G one too. And for the record, I was not bullied. I did this on my own.
Does that mean we're going to see more of you this season?
Maybe.
I don't like maybes. I like
I want to
guesses.
keep it at a strong maybe, probably.
I tell you what, I want to see you at 11 of the 12 races. We'll give you a pass on the Nordschleife.
No, it's not going to happen.
10 out of 12?
We'll see.
Well, I tell you what, the i5G car looked on rails. You had a good fight with Powerslide at the start, but then you elected not to come down on that second caution. Was there ever any thinking that you would come down? Because you were one of just a few cars not to pit.
Yeah, I didn't realize that so many cars were going to pit. I mean, we weren't inside of a fuel window, and we had only done like 10 laps on tires by that point. So I was surprised that so many people stayed out. And then the one thing I was worried about, getting trapped lap down, happened. So that was interesting. I mean, in retrospect, it was fun because I got to drive through the field, but it wasn't fun in the moment. But I'll take it.
Well, glad to have you back, Chris, and we are going to try and bully you to do this a little bit more because I guess if you got second today, well, if you go one better, that's a win. Come on, we got to see you at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, congratulations on the new recruit. Congratulations on the 1-2. We'll see you hopefully then in 7 days' time.
Yep. Thanks, Arjuna. Thanks, Gazelle.
Chris Demerit rounds out then our podium interviews. Let's go and take a look at the schedule, though, Andrew, because like I said, 7 days from now we'll head to Georgia. Just outside of Atlanta is Road Atlanta, the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It's a place where you might not think IndyCars put on a show, but I can tell you, having raced there myself, it is so much fun. Driving at the limit is so difficult but so rewarding. Also happens to be one of the few places I've beaten Adam Blocker.
And that is definitely a claim to fame for you, Arjuna. Yeah, Road Atlanta, it's really, really fun in this IndyCar. It's one of those tracks that I like to use the phrase high commitment from it. You need to be basically on the limit lap after lap, and 49 laps at Road Atlanta is going to be no small task for all of these drivers. So I expect that especially the Powerslide bunch is going to be motivated to come back and have a better showing compared to what they had today. So I'm very intrigued by what we are going to see in 1 week's time at Road Atlanta.
And let's talk about the rest of the season very briefly as well. I mean, there's so much fun. Plenty of tracks that will coincide with the real-world NTT IndyCar Series. You know, the streets of Long Beach, Barber, Motorsports Park, and of course heading into the month of May and the streets of Belle Isle as well. I mean, you look at this and other than the surprises, you know, that maybe the Nordschleife will bring, what are you looking forward to here?
I think that this is one of those classic IndyCar seasons. Of course, barring your favorite, the Nordschleife, we have so many really strong IndyCar tracks. So this is one of those seasons where it's just really a quintessentially IndyCar flavor that it has. Other past seasons, we've had more European tracks mixed in. Again, barring the Nordschleife, we've got basically all IndyCar tracks this year, and I'm looking forward to it, all North American.
Just a reminder as well, not the Texas Motor Speedway, it will be Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. 7 days from now, same time, same place, the 21st of March. Join us for round 2 of 12. It's also leading up to the Sebring 12-hour race here on iRacing. Plenty of excitement in the air. And, well, a week after a new build, great way to kick off a new season. The Power Slides stronghold that has been Monday night since race 1 of last season at Road America has finally been broken. It is I5G back in victory lane. For now, though, we are ready to say goodbye. Plenty more IndyCar action to come. Remember, in just about half an hour's time, stay live on RaceSpotTV. We'll be heading to the Sunshine State for your season opener, the Butt Kicker Miami 200 in the Lionheart Speedway Series. For now, though, it is time to wrap things up. It is time to say goodbye. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for my co-commentator Andrew Kinsella, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, signing off for now. Can't wait to see what Road Atlanta's got in store for you. It's got in store for us. We'll see you then. But for now, enjoy the first iRacing week of a new season. Plenty of excitement in the air. Congratulations to Alexis Newsom, winner on debut for Team I5G.
I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I am no regular citizen. Do you understand what you witnessing? You cannot tell what the difference is. I want it all and I'm winning it. I do not care about opinions.